yeah, so welcome, Mark Duke. This is going to be a session where we review the week that was with regards to the Kibe spaces, and you know, we've had quite a great week. Mark Duke is joining us all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm coming at you from Kigali, Rwanda. So it shows how, you know, despite where you are in this world, you know, you get connected and you make things happen. So I think we'll go right to it, Mark. And Monday was quite an interesting day. You know, it started off, you know, people are waiting for the space to start. I think we went in for about, what, almost 2 hours in before you decided to, you know, take the wheels. Really run the show. Because we understand Kibe, George, they were away in LA, and I think the celebration, but they deserve it, you know. You know, considering, man, they ran these sessions at some very odd hours, eh? Because I imagine probably they go to sleep at 5 or 6 a.m. in the US, because they do it late night through to the early morning, their time. You know, one day off won't kill off, but, you know, the conversation still went on. And thank God you decided to take on the reins and run with it. I was just there, you know, giving you a bit of a quarterback and supporting.
But you're the perfect co-host. I couldn't think of anyone else. So when I saw you joining the space, I was like, here's my co-host.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when you elevated me to become a co-host, and I was like, okay, let me sit in and you know, support you through that conversation. So Monday, I think the more of an arching topic was around body count.
Body count, yeah.
I don't know what your take about it, you know, on the topic, and also based off some of the reactions that we got from the
participants. So the ladies were not so much concerned with body count. You know, as you heard, they said that no, body count is only important to gentlemen. But in actual fact, if body count is not that important, then why are we counting? Then it means that we're counting for something. There's a certain value that we place on a woman based on her purity. It's just that now the beauty standards are so low. I mean, throughout the 60s and the 80s, you would get a woman and she'd be a virgin. After the 80s to the 90s, now we'd settle for 1 body count, 2 body count. And now it's just so crazy. I mean, I remember even back in the day, the reason why bride price, I mean, it's not really bride price, but there was a penalty that was given back in our old days. So in our language, it's to like breaking her leg, making her pregnant. So you have to pay for that damage because you took away her purity. Because that purity was that much important that when a man takes away that purity, he has to be accountable, whether monetarily or by presence. But the value of the money could never account to the purity of the woman. So even back in the days, you know that you would get a good wife, a good woman by the type of purity that she has, even by the society. If she is not that pure, the society would somehow, you know, shame her, you know, they would demean her, because all those important things that attract a man are no longer there. So yeah, that was the topic on body count, and it really does count. It really does count.
Great, very well submitted. Even in our own culture, those things are quite relevant. I mean, if you come asking for a lady's hand and she's already pregnant, that's, I think we refer it as a penalty of sorts, and I think more or less what you've just shared. And you know, as I was thinking about it, you know, I took some time to reflect on the reactions that we had during the space, and some of the ladies, you know, even as they were giving their submission, they were sort of exacerbated. You know, they were sort of,
Yeah.
you know, it came off like from a point of, would I say it, anger,
Yeah, true.
of sense, you know, as much as, because they were saying, you know, they were sort of chipping in the aspect of sex, you know,
Yeah.
and also to some degree, you know, just because there was no way to verify the information is given, one, they don't give it in a truthful manner. We are
Mm-hmm.
sure if you ever ask a lady what her body count is, it's definitely not the real figure. You'll have to multiply it several times over to get the real count.
Yeah,
But even to them, you know, they know it is of
true,
value.
true.
They do know, and that's why they are not honest about it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was actually thinking about it and saying, you know, if body count wasn't really a concern, then we'll be marrying prostitutes without a problem.
true,
Why
true,
don't we go for
true,
prostitutes?
true, true, true.
So that was actually a very interesting thing that I noticed during that space,
Yeah,
that as they came in defense and saying, you know, body count doesn't matter, you know, sex is just basically, you know, a
yeah.
penis and a vagina coming together, you know, they are saying it doesn't have any emotional, mental aspect. And actually, this
Mm,
goes to the fact of how the modern woman, in a sense, has been made more masculine. You know, that is something I would expect to hear
yeah,
from a
from a
man,
man.
not from a woman. I don't
Mm,
know what was your other take as you listened to their feedback.
yeah, that is totally something that we would expect from a man. And unfortunately, you know, a woman cannot run a man's race because we have sheer energy. And and in terms of maintaining our own value, I mean, a man could be, you know, as we were growing up, that one guy who used to pomoa all the ladies would say that, yo, he's the guy, he's the guy. So it doesn't take away his value. But that lady who used to be pomoed by all the guys, we used to say that, nah, 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 she's a langa, this one.
She's a langa. She's for the
She's a
streets.
langa. She's from the streets.
Yes.
And I also like that submission by, I think it was by Santino.
Yes.
He said something about BSI or body
It was
count.
a body count chip, some kind of
The
an,
body
he was
count
trying
chip.
to, yes, he was trying to
Yeah, yeah.
contemplate of an innovation.
Yes. So I think you can go deeper into the body count chip because I kind of forgot some of the sentiments that he said, but he said that what if we put a body count chip on a woman and every time we'd have an encounter with her, it would show us who she has been with, how many times, and the value that she has at the moment. And it wouldn't leave anything. Would we then make a decision on being with that woman? I think you had that deeper conversation with Santino than I did on the body count chip.
Yeah. So Santino began sort of brainstorming on,
Yeah.
now we know women cannot voluntarily give us their body count information, you know, in an honest fashion. So how
Mhm.
can we find out what their body count is? And also this was emanating from, I think, a previous video that Kibe put out where somebody actually suggested if there was a way that we could have the body count on women's
On the
foreheads
forehead. Yeah.
so that you can know. It was like mileage. And you actually, when you responded to one of the reactions from the lady was, you know, would you rather get a brand new car or a car that has done a few
Yeah.
miles or one that has been on the road for several years, you know, and the mile is already way over 100,000 miles? Would you do that? I think no one in his right mind would go for an overused car.
Mhm.
You'd always go for the mint, nice new car, zero mileage, right off from the showroom. That shows its value is much higher. Even when if you're to sell it, if you're to sell a car that has done only 5,000 miles vis-a-vis a car that has done 1,000 miles, it might be the best car ever, but the 5,000 miles car would do better than a 10,000, 100,000 mile car.
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
those kind of things. And also this brought up that aspect of sexual market value. What would you say are some of the key things that, from a man's perspective, as they look to a woman, would you say is, goes to their sexual market value, their SMV?
Okay. What goes to a man's SMV, number one is her purity, like her purity. Is she pure? Is she pure? And number two, her submissiveness. Is she malleable? Because you don't want a woman who's going to take the reins over you, or a woman who's going to be always bickering, or a woman who's going to think highly of themselves over you. You want somebody who's going to be submissive, because at the end of the day, you want to lead, and you want somebody who's going to be led. And you don't want to fight for positions, because two heads at the end of the day creates a monster. So you don't want that type of drama that women usually like. And you want somebody who values mothership over a career, because the primary role of a woman is it's motherhood. You know, we can be diplomatic, talk about the modern woman, that she can do everything, but the primary role of a woman is motherhood. So her purity, her submissiveness, her motherhood values, those are the key factors that comes into a man's sexual market value.
I really like that. And when you talk of purity, do you refer now to the actual body count in terms of?
Absolutely.
and tell me, where does age go into?
Yes, it's also her age, because the younger she is, the less she is exposed to men. Because unlike a man, when we have sex, we can have sex just because we are horny. But when a woman has sex, she's attached. And every time she is broken from that agreement, or every time she's betrayed from that agreement, she loses a part of herself. She's actually going to tell herself that I'm never going to do this for men. And then she goes into another relationship. I'm never going to do this for men. So all these things that she should be doing for men, she told herself that I'm never going to be doing them, because I got heartbroken, because these guys are just sleeping with me, because I got betrayed. And when you have a woman who has a high body count, then she has an inability to commit. She has an inability to glue her emotions to you because of those betrayal, those heartbreaks, and all that drama that she had. So I think that would be the best way to describe a woman and her age. But when she is young, she's still a blank canvas. And that blank canvas, you can even draw a picture that you want her to be. Instead of her going to the streets are going to paint a picture of what the streets want her to be. She's going to be off the streets. She's going to go to you, and eventually she's going to go back to the streets. But the younger they are, the more fresh they are, and the more malleable they are. So a woman's age in that regard is important. We also talked about this guy from Titanic.
Leo.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
That every time he gets into a relationship with girls between 21 and 25. And if you can see her dating history, she doesn't go over 25. So he clearly knows something that we don't when it comes to age.
Yeah, this is when men are actually thinking back, and because you also expect a woman to come under your frame.
Yeah.
And that also means that for you to assume the headship in that union, then that also means that the woman also has to be younger than you.
True.
I know, this modernity has said, okay, it doesn't matter, you can still marry a woman who is older. And we've seen where most of those relationships have ended.
True.
And I guess this is also that aspect. I think modernity has tried to sort of cheat or try to validate things that in our natural
True.
sense really don't work. You know, that aspect of a man has to be older than the woman has to command her frame, you know, all
True.
those aspects that you mentioned, for her to be agreeable to you, for her to be submissive to you, and for her to now be, you know, a woman who is taking care of your kids. I don't know if you have anything to add around that.
Yeah, I remember last year there's some gentleman, he's older than me, and we were at a camp, and then he told me that soon as the camp finishes, he has to go home, and he has a dog. It's a pit bull. It's a female pit bull, and this dog is so aggressive, and it's tormenting the community. So he said that he has to go put it out. And he said that his regret was that he bought a full-grown pit bull because it looked nice. It looked beautiful. It's a pit bull, and it was a rescue dog. But because it was a rescue dog, it has been through so much drama and through so much trauma. And you can see its trauma from its aggression, because it's threatening the children in the streets. It's even threatening them in the house. So he had to put it out. So he said that he wishes that he had a pit bull, a smaller pit bull, because with that pit bull, it could have been easy to raise it, you know, to make it submit, to train it. Like they said, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So when you get an older woman, it's just like you're getting a rescue dog.
I like that.
Like
I like that analogy.
Yeah, she has the trauma is there. The heartbreaks are there. You know, she has a lot of history, and she's going to be aggressive. She's going to destroy you. She's going to demean you. She's going to emasculate you because of that history. And mind you, you are not paying for the sins that you committed. You are paying for the sins that other men committed. Now you are into this relationship. She's going to beat you down. But if you get a smaller puppy that you can raise yourself, you know, that you can teach a few tricks, and eventually when it grows with you, it knows who the boss is. But with that, you know, rescue dog, it wants to be the boss. So it's the same analogy of being in an older relationship with a woman.
I like that. I mean, it goes to that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And that's for sure. You know, it becomes much harder, you know, for an older woman. You know, she's literally, you know, almost set in her ways, particularly if you get someone who is over 35.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you show? What can you share with that? Particularly if she's been this modern wife, she modern women who's been corporate job. She's probably traveled around. You know, there's probably very little that you'll do that will excite her.
Yeah.
So I think let's move along and then now move to